All right, fellas, welcome to the Front Row Dads podcast. I'm here with Angie and Megan, and we're getting a different perspective today on Mother's Day. Rather than me going around and asking a bunch of dudes how to win Mother's Day, I thought I would talk to two amazing moms who, for the record, just led the first ever Front Row Moms retreat, which was a real successful event up in Canada. That's not the point of this show, although some of you are hearing that and getting excited because for as long as I can remember, people have been saying, when are you launching Front Row Moms? When are you launching Front Row Moms? And so I would say momentum has begun and it's exciting. And there's more that I'll announce on that. But the reason I wanted to talk with Angie and Megan today is because I wanted, with Mother's Day around the corner, I wanted to ask their opinion on how do we win on this holiday? How do we create an environment? How do we give gifts? How do we say the words? How do we hold the space? And what do we not do sometimes that makes Mother's Day an amazing day for the women that we love? And this could be, by the way, for any mom. It could be for your mom. It could be for grandmoms. It could be for, just honoring women who have and wear a badge of motherhood in their lives. So, taken from many perspectives and many angles, we're going to try to look at this and understand what are the ingredients that go into winning the day. And I know that we're going to hear from Angie and Megan and their perspective. And also, I'm hoping to get the wisdom that they've collected in hearing the stories of the women they've been connected to over the years. So, other moms in their peer group, and people that maybe perhaps were at Front Row Moms just recently. So, Angie and Megan, welcome to the Front Row Dads podcast. I'm pumped to be having this conversation with you.
Thank you
so much for having us.
We're excited.
And I'm recording this, by the way, the audio may sound different because I'm on my AirPods right now in a hotel room in Miami, about to lead a Front Row Dads retreat in the Keys this coming week. And are you, Megan, where do you live, by the way?
I'm outside of Boulder, Colorado.
Okay. Yeah. And Angie's up in Canada. And Angie and I, we go back many, many years. In fact, I can't even count that high, but we've known each other the majority of our adult lives. And Megan, we're new friends, and I'm excited to get to know you more. And I'm leaning into this new relationship because people who are connected to you have such great things to say about you. You're both moms, obviously, and you're both leaders in many ways. And we'll maybe get to a little bit more about your families and your bio, but let's just jump right into the subject so that we can give the guys what they came for, which is, how do we win on Mother's Day? And maybe I'll go to you, Angie, first and just say, from your perspective, Angie, where have been the wins? Where have people honored you and loved you in the ways that you wanted? And what are some ways that maybe you're like, hey, if people are listening, here's what I want them to know, right? But how, from your perspective, broad strokes, I realize I'm giving you a lot of room to choose your adventure here and how you answer, but how do we win Mother's Day? That's the question.
Well, it's a great question. And I think it just starts even with that question. The fact that the partner in the relationship is curious enough to say, how do I win and show up for my wife is a success already, I think, just from the get-go. And I think when I reflect on many years having experienced and been a mom, that I think it's different on the stages of where I've been at in my life. How old were my kids? What was happening in my job? Where were we at in our marriage? And I say that because it's not the same. I change year to year, and I think that changes how I would want to be honored on that day or that weekend if my husband was looking to do something. And so sometimes I think the win comes from just being aware of what else is going on in the world, in their world. And I think back actually to my mom, and I'm like, my mom did all the cooking. So a big win for her was when I was little, we went out for brunch. We went out for dinner. She didn't have to cook that day. Now, when I reflect on myself, my husband actually does pretty much all the cooking in our house. That's not my area expertise. And so when our kids were little, it was actually more so about just spending time with our family. Dedicated time where my kids, when they were young, if I got some help putting something together, making a card for me melted my heart, where they just put their own thoughts and energy into giving it to me. I was, that really made me sing. And then there has been other moments where they got a little older and my husband said, hey, what do you want to do on that weekend or that day? And my answer was, go away. And I left and I went with girlfriends and we went cycling, and it was a weekend away from my family, which might sound actually a little strange. You're like celebrating, but that's what I needed at that time. I just needed to have my own space and my own time and kind of reclaim who I was a little bit. Because I was getting a little lost, in all the other parts that made me. So I think that, the win comes from, acknowledging and thinking about, where is she at? What's happening in the world, in her world? And does she need a break from us? Or does she need more of us maybe right now? And then asking her. And when he asks me and says, what do you want to do? Sometimes that's the best answer for me.
I can really relate to this space topic because oftentimes it's the gift of space is what brings us closer together. I was talking to somebody about this earlier, where last year when Tatiana went to Peru for 2 months, people were like, how'd that go? And I go, it's interesting. I love her more than ever when she's gone. and I thought that it was like the absence of Tatiana, but really what that meant is giving myself room to really show up for me allowed me to feel love. And when I feel love more for myself, I can feel it more for other people. Like the more capacity I have to feel love for myself, the more I can feel it from my wife and my kids. So sometimes it does sound a little weird. Like, what do you want? And I'm like, to be distant so that I can be the most, I can love you the most that I can love you. But being in Miami for these couple of days, being alone, I felt so many deep feelings of love for my family, even more than when I'm physically right next to them. And I think that's such an essential ingredient to a healthy family. And if what we're trying to do is create health, and I get the idea of space. I've shared many times, Tatiana said the sixth love language for Gary Chapman should have been space. Space is the sixth love language. And I agree with her 1,000%. So looking at it from that angle, it makes a ton of sense. And I've had Tatiana tell me the same thing. And surprisingly, when I've asked this question to many women over the years, time alone is often the answer. So not always, like you said, but for many. Megan, how about for you? What makes Mother's Day successful? And any wins in the past or wins you wish would have been there?
Yeah, so I totally appreciate what Angie said, having different times in your life and the different things you think you need or want during those times. So I remember when I first had kids and when I first became a mother, and like the whole idea of Mother's Day was you get gifts, you go out to eat, all of these things. And I was exhausted. Number one, I was exhausted from having a newborn, but then I was exhausted from all the things to do during that day. And I was like, this isn't really what I want. This is too much. So just having conversations with my husband, he kind of put it in perspective. Why do we have to have one day to celebrate you as a mom, which I completely appreciate. So Father's Day, Mother's Day, even Valentine's Day, what is it? Why do we have to show love on that one day? So I really appreciate that he has shown me that we can do that throughout the year. But then also, what kind of things do you want to do on that day? Because you have that day and it's really special to the kids. I almost feel like the kids really see it more as a, mommy, what can we do for you? You do all the stuff for us. So it's more of him asking, what would you like to do on that day? But I also love surprises. So I want to have a little bit part of it, but I also love the surprise of what comes on that day. And for me, it's, maybe it's just a relaxing morning. I'd love to do something together as a family, something active. So we either go for a hike, which my kids normally don't love to do. So that's something for me, but they get to enjoy it together. We go for a family bike ride. We just kind of do something that, you get that together time. I love their handmade cards. They're still at that stage where they want to give me little handprints, and I cherish those things. So it's just those little things of how do we support you? what can we do as a family together? And it's really just showing how do we get that extra time with everybody being so busy throughout every other time during the week. And I think that's probably the most special to me is the time.
Mm. Where do you hear, Megan, from, and again, this doesn't have to be your own personal experience talking about, your partner or your family, although you can approach it from that angle. But I'm curious also, like, if you were to think about all the conversations you've had with other moms over the years, where are their husbands missing the mark? What are they doing wrong? Where are they making the mistakes?
I think it's more in the putting too much on their plate. So again, not asking for what they might really want and saying, all right, well, we're going to do all these things on Mother's Day. And again, they're like, maybe I don't want all these things on Mother's Day. So I think asking that question, what could I do for you? Not that, not what it looks like to everybody else. Not that we have to set up and go to set up a reservation 3 weeks in advance to go to this fancy restaurant. Not that we have to get you all these gifts. What do you truly want? So I think the moms that I've really come across are like, I want to rest that day. I want to do nothing. Or again, I want time for myself. And whether that's the rest, do nothing, and then my family's taking care of me, maybe they make me breakfast, having that time with them, but I really don't want to do anything. Maybe I just want to go for a walk by myself, or maybe I do want to go out and grab, coffee with a friend. So I think asking what they want has been something I've heard from so many mothers, and just taking a break on that day. That's the biggest thing that they could ask for.
I think my own challenge with this has been I procrastinate because I'll start to think about it. I'm like, what does she really want? I'm like, maybe the idea will hit me next week. And then I'm like, well, maybe I'll surprise her. And I'm like, God, does she really want to be surprised? Maybe I should ask her. And then I don't find a time to ask her. I don't make time to ask her. And then it's like, it gets to be really close. And I'm like, and then next thing you know, I've let another year pass of failing on the day, or I do something that she doesn't want or need. Again, it's like I did everything but what she really wanted. So I took her out for the fancy thing, and what she really wanted was space. And that actually was true one year. That definitely was the theme. It was like, what do you want? It's like, she said to me, like, I would love to be without the kids. She had to say it so directly because I'm like, but they're your kids. This is Mother's Day. Are we supposed to be celebrating you with the kids? And she said, what she said was, that would be fine if we had like the moment where they could like give the card or do the thing, because they should have a moment where they could feel part of it. I found that my kids wanted Mother's Day to be celebrated, not so much for mom, but for them. Like, we should take mom out for pancakes. Oh, really? Does mom love pancakes? Is that what you found over the years? Or do you love pancakes and you're leveraging Mother's Day? I know what's happening here. Yeah. Angie, what about you? Do you find the same mistakes being made, or have you found something different?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say that when I, which would be similar, I think, to my husband, is when you said didn't plan maybe in advance or left it last minute, then the gift ends up being something that I would like versus really what you would like. And so we, just thinking, yeah, well, this would be fun to do because I like to do that. So let's go do that, which just comes back to the love languages, I think, is that, or the idea of, treating people as they want to be loved, not maybe as you show that love and feel that love. And so I think that's usually the common thing, or it's just go grab a card at the grocery store and, here's a card and here's some flowers. And it's funny because I actually, we've learned, my husband and I have kind of ebbed and flowed over time because, you think everybody would love flowers. And I actually don't. I'm changing, but I'm like, I got to take care of those. Then they're going to die. I don't take care of plants. I'm like, you just bought me flowers. So it's really been this interesting dynamic of just asking and then really remembering. And so, even if as the day is approaching, I think about jotting down some notes. What is she saying in passing? Not passive aggressive, not like trying to get something in there, but really what is lighting her up? And then jotting that down, because whether it's Mother's Day or it's going to be some other day, remembering that I think I think could be helpful. Yeah, I think it could make a difference, because knowing that you paid attention goes further than you think, I think.
Yeah. Do you think sometimes we put too much pressure on like on knowing the answer and like surprising somebody versus just ask them?
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
I do that for myself sometimes. I'm like, oh, I'm pretty sure she's going to love this. But I'm married to a woman who really knows what she wants and is not afraid to ask for it or go get it. And so if you're married to that type of person, then, and they like to influence their outcomes, you know, because I just did this recently. I took a picture of a piece of jewelry that I had already bought for her, and I sent it to her, and I was like, what do you like? I said something like, what do you think of this? And she's like, she basically critiqued it. And I was like, yep, that goes to show, like, you know, I don't know always what she would want. And I think it's okay to give somebody what they really want, and let them, if surprises are not the thing that lights them up, unless they say specifically, like, I just love the surprise. I don't care what it is. I just want to be surprised. If that's the instruction, I feel like that's different than, hey, tell me about your perfect day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think just the number of decisions that a lot of people, and we're talking about moms, make in their life, not having to make decisions that day is a big gift. So asking, hey, what do you want? But then maybe getting some boundaries on, like, oh, it could be this, but then just owning it and just making the decisions. That in itself could be super helpful. Just she doesn't have to make decisions that day. And
Yeah.
that releases a lot, which is cool.
Can I offer up something on the gifts real quick?
Yeah.
So ideas. So what me and my husband do is we keep a running list of a kind of a notes, and we each have our own set of gift ideas. And throughout the year, we just start plugging in things that we want and we won't buy for ourselves. So that always gives the other person an opportunity to look for Christmas, for our birthdays, for any kind of holiday. Here are options, but I might not know what's coming, but I know that it's something I would want, but I'm just not buying it for myself. So that could be something, a great idea for folks to start doing is, let me start doing this list of things I might want, but it's still a surprise because you don't know when it's coming or if it's coming.
So Megan, you're saying that I'd have to become the type of person that wants something that doesn't automatically buy it for myself?
Yes. There's that patience, and then you have to wait for it to come. So it is a test of, you put it on your list in July. You're like, I might not be getting this till Christmas. So I got to be okay with that.
Wow. That's so funny. Sounds like I have to do work on myself first to become the type of man that wants things that he doesn't just go buy. That's so great. That's good. Can either of you think of specific stories, going back over all the Mother's Days, and they could be very like sweet and specific moments that stand out for you? Like, what are the highlights, or is there a highlight, a particular breakfast, a particular day off, a particular moment in time that just somehow, for whatever reason, got seared into your memory as a good one?
I can share one. I'll share my first one just because that was incredibly special, right? You never celebrated Mother's Day before. And we actually went to Charleston. I was living on the East Coast at the time, and I was visiting some friends, but my husband and then my first son came with us. He was almost a year at the time. And I think just spending it together on that first, and we went to breakfast, we wandered around the town, and I will never forget that being the very first one. It was incredibly special. It still sits in my mind. And just having that time, being in a new place, exploring it together, and feeling like, wow, I'm a mom and I get to celebrate this day. So I thought that was something that really stands in my heart.
Love that. Ange, for you, do you have anything that stands out?
Actually, I visualize, when I think about it, I think about just sitting on the couch when my kids were really little, presenting their handcrafted cards. And I was just so touched by that. I don't, people like, oh, bring breakfast in bed. And I remember my kids doing that one Mother's Day, and I don't do that. That's not because I don't take time. I just don't like eating in my bed. I'm like, Warren will try to bring me a coffee in the bed. I'm like, we don't do this here. I'm like, I don't want it here. I sit it out there, So I just remember how excited they were to bring me food. And I remember just being so excited for them, even though I was like, this is not my jam, but they were just so excited. And then I actually think just a couple years ago, because as my kids have gotten older, now they're, 15 and 18, it's hard to rally a lot of us together. And so them knowing that that day was coming, and I was like, I get to choose, and I'm choosing we're going hiking, whether you like it or not. And that we laughed a little bit, and they're like, okay, but they get so busy that, it's hard to grab them together. And so for me, it was really wonderful that I'm like, even though you really don't want to do this right now, you're doing it with us. We're doing it together. And we're out here, we're hiking, we're doing the thing that I want to do. And you're smiling. And so I just remember that recently, because yeah, they've got other interests, and we all go, we have different direct things, but grabbing that space that they were like, kind of like my birthday. They kind of treat it like I get a pass that day, where they're not going to complain when I say, we're going for a bike ride, we're going hiking. And they're like, okay. So as they get older, yeah.
Do you think this really comes down to just knowing your partner well enough to love them the way they want to be loved? Like, that's really what it is.
Yes.
Is that what we're getting to?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the answer is almost always witness me in some way. See me, know me, witness me, pay attention to me. Like, can you see what I care about in my life? Like, that to me is like that's the juiciest part. And I think when we don't get that, we feel alone. It's like, this person doesn't know me. I don't feel connected. And so I think where we started this, which is really interesting, is also it's a moving target. Like, if you wrote in your notes that my partner likes this, that might have been 3 years ago, maybe not in this season, maybe not right now, maybe not this month. Maybe they need something entirely different. And when we're attuned, it's a word I like to, ask myself all the time, is, am I attuned to this person? Am I attuned to this partner? Because when I'm not, there is disruption, and there needs to be repair. Do you think that part of what makes Mother's Day challenging for some people is that there has been rupture in the past and there has been no repair? Like, I'll give you an example of what I mean. I'm kind of leading by this. I'm projecting my own relationship onto this conversation. It's like, I feel like I've messed up Mother's Day in the past, to where when Mother's Day comes around, there's almost this trauma that exists with it. Like, he's going to screw it up again. This isn't going to, like, and it's like a reminder of how badly I've screwed that up in the past. And that, I'm wondering, do you feel, and maybe not even from your own marriages, but do you think that I might be onto something, that for some men listening to this, could it be that there needs to be some repair, like some ownership, like going back to their partner and saying, hey, I just want you to know, in the past, like, I think I've really screwed up Mother's Day. I didn't give you what you really needed. I didn't ask the question. I wasn't attuned to your heart. I might have, like, taken you out and done all these things that I thought you needed, taken you to the fancy dinner, and what you really needed was rest. And I'm sorry for not having seen you more in those moments, or known what your heart needed. I want to own that. This year, I want to do better. I really want to get an A+. So can you tell me where you are? Tell me what your heart feels. Tell me what you need. But I wonder if a guy's listening to this going, yeah, I've jacked this up. She has not been shy about telling me that I've jacked it up. Does the repair need to occur first before maybe they go in and try to do it better this time?
Yeah, I think so. I think the way you just explained it, John, all the men listening could take that and repeat it back to their wives. I just think that's a true, listening, hearing. There's never a moment where you've done something wrong that you can't say sorry, say, how can I do better? And I think that could happen, Mother's Day, all throughout the year, but asking for, hey, I didn't really know what you needed or wanted, and that was on me to not ask. Now I'm asking. I'm also apologizing for the past, but no, I really want to hear and listen and be present for what it is that you're asking for. What do you need right now? How can I be more helpful? Right? And it's so simple. It's so simple, we just forget to do it. It's just words that we can ask, but being present while we ask it, I think could be really powerful, and allow them to see, wow, I was always thinking it was this, or maybe, it's something they've done in the past or their friends do, but that's not going to work for each and every one of their lives. They're all going to need something different. And I think just being in tune to that can be really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Angie, anything you want to add to that?
The only thing I would add is just when we're, something I think is for myself was having a new appreciation for my own mom as life went on. And I think that I've messed up, when we think about Mother's Day, I'm so consumed with where I'm at. It's hard for me to also remember where my mom is at. So I think that actually, it makes me get emotional because I'm like, oh, it isn't just about me. There's another layer to consider, and not to put pressure on this one day, but it's just I think just a reminder that there's, you never know where people are at, whether, how do you show that now to your mom? If you have your mom is still with you. But then it's also acknowledging that there's women. I remember leading up to Mother's Day, and we were trying to get pregnant, and it wasn't working. And Mother's Day was really hard. And it just was hard because I remember the process and seeing so that's another thing to be mindful of is that in your world right now where that's coming up, and as a husband or a partner, you're like, well, how do I operate this now? Because we want to have children. We don't have children yet. It's been challenging, or maybe someone has lost a child, right? There's a lot of dynamics there. So it's like, do you don't put so much pressure on the one day, but then at the same time, how can we all think about, where is that person in our life? Where are they at? Where are we at in relation to what society says we celebrate on Mother's Day? So I think that I've forgotten that in the past. And I remember, and it seems so long ago, but when it was in the moment, it was really hard when everybody else had kids and I didn't. And I was trying really hard to have them.
I like that you just brought this up, Angie, because, we start the show by talking to these front row dads about how they might honor their spouse on Mother's Day. That becomes like the intention for me of wanting to record this episode, but it doesn't take long to understand that now we have we all have, most people on either side of the table, the man or the woman will have a mother, and then they're celebrating their mother, right? So there's all these variations, and then it's honoring, like you said, the people that are in our peer group, our friends, our neighbors, our community, the people that want to be mothers that maybe have had challenges becoming a mother, being sensitive to that person on this given day. It becomes so much more than just, did you order the right set of flowers, right? Did you buy the right gift off Amazon? It's so much more than that. When I talk about front row dads, I want to talk to the men who are interested in that level of expansion, because I think a level one father is what kind of flowers do I order? And it's good for you. Flowers are nice, but that's level one. Level two is now, how about your mom? Now, how about your spouse's mom? Now, how about and then you start thinking about then your friends' moms, and the people who lost their moms, and the people that didn't grow up with a mom. And you can just start to have capacity to hold more for what this day means. What if one of the gifts is for you to sit down? I'm speaking to the men, right? What if one of the gifts on Mother's Day is not to just look at it from the single dimension of how do I make a list of how to make my wife happy and gauge your success on Mother's Day, whether or not you made her happy? But what if you start by sitting down and asking questions about motherhood and what it means to you as a man? What does it mean to be a mother? What challenges might they face? What just try to walk a little bit in their shoes, try to empathize, try to appreciate, try to think about a world which doesn't exist without mothers, right? Think about the act of growing a human in your body, and what the sacrifice that looks like, and all of what mothers have to handle in their lives. Just sit with that. I wonder if that is the starting place where most men sit and say, how am I going to win Mother's Day for my spouse? They make a list, actions to do. This is where I think most men go. And what we've learned in Front Row Dads over the last 8 years is what men really need are two things. One, they need to heal. What needs to heal in you for you to really celebrate Mother's Day? And number two, how can you emotionally attune to this Mother's Day and what that means? It's an emotional thing, right? Can you feel it with your body, not work it out with your head? Right, because that your spouse feels, that your mother feels, that your friends feel when you're heady about it, when you're leading with the list, versus like starting the process of celebrating Mother's Day in your heart and getting emotional. Like, what can you think and feel that would have you tear up? Like, what do you need to remember about your mom? What do you need to see about her? What do you need to feel about all the mothers of the world? you know and that for some mothers, like, Mother's Day is probably painful. And that people who've lost children are in mourning on this day. And so there's so many layers, and it's so complex. And yet, if we begin with our heart, I feel like that's a beautiful place to start. Even like as I record this, I go, man, I totally start these types of shows and interviews going, what's the list? Give me the 3 action steps. And if I attune long enough, I remember I start with my heart. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think that we could talk about? What have we not talked about in this conversation that we might be missing right now? That in thinking about this, you might have had an idea, a thought, a story you wanted to share. Where have I not taken us that we might want to go? Or do we feel like we've traveled down this road well enough to close the chapter?
Megan?
I mean, we covered a lot. I love that we went to, thinking about our own mothers, right? We're talking about ourselves, we're talking about our friends, but also like, what does that look like for thinking about our own mothers? And I was like, oh yeah, I need to make sure I celebrate my own mom. And what does that look like? And my mother-in-law, and make sure my kids are able to give them time that day, even if it's a FaceTime call or a card, making sure that we're celebrating them, because that's our lineage, right? So we have that coming through. Sharing, I mean, I love what you said about just having that open space for those that may have had some struggles in the past, conceiving, or have something happen in their life where they no longer have a child. I mean, that's something that we never want to take for granted. And I think it just comes back to, a big appreciation and being grateful. So every single day, I tell my kids how grateful I am for them, how I appreciate them so much. And at the end of the night, I say the same thing. And I love you. It goes such a long way. So telling it to your kids, having them say it to you, and just being grateful for the life you have, not so many of the things, but the people in your life. And I think we can hear it here is like how those people have impacted every single one of us. So I think really going back to that appreciation, being grateful, and showing it to your husband for everything that he does as well. And looking at that, not just on Mother's Day, but in general, look at how that has impacted your life, how now we as mothers have what we do each and every day, but those kids made us mothers, and how that has also changed our trajectory, and maybe what we think we were going to do in our life is now changed, and thanking them for that because they were a part of it.
I love that. Thank you, Megan. Thanks for your heart too, and your emotion. I appreciate that. You brought up this idea of like using the holiday as a chance to get to know someone's heart more. Like, what if you just looked at Mother's Day as you go, how do I win Mother's Day? Use it as an opportunity to get to know someone's heart. So you just gave me an idea that I could call my mom with my kids in the car, and I could say, Mom, tell your grandkids about your decision to become a mom. And I could tell my kids, like, if she wouldn't have made the decision to become a mom, you two don't exist. Like,
Yeah.
You're not even here. You're not even here if this woman who we're on the phone with did not decide to have children. Like, you don't exist. How wild is that thought, right? So should you feel grateful for her? I don't know. Like, she gave you life in a way, so like, let's talk to her about. And I love that, by the way. My parents were just in town, and I was out to dinner with them and my 14-year-old. And I said, Mom and Dad, tell Tiger what life was like for you when you were 14. What were your challenges? What was happening in the world? Like, so if you have your parents still alive and you can do this, maybe use it as an opportunity to talk about, like, hey, when you became a mother, here's a great question, right? When you became a mother, what was life like? What was your life like? What were the challenges that you faced? What went into the decision to become a mother? Like, what do you remember about motherhood? What were some of the highs and the lows? Like, I'm not afraid of the lows, by the way, and my parents telling my kids the real challenges of life. I'm not afraid of that. Age appropriate, of course, but it's like, use this as a chance to like ask powerful questions and learn about people's hearts on this day.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the message. If I were to put a headline on this conversation, that's what it feels like to me. That's the big takeaway for me today.
Yeah. It's an opportunity to
And
pause.
anything else you want to say? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I just said it's an opportunity to pause. And I think it's really neat when someone takes time to share a story about what you love about your mom, share a time, share a moment,
Yeah.
I think that it depends on, routines and families and how things go. But, for us, life gets pretty busy and we get go, 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 go. And I think that being able to pause in that moment or that day and have somebody prepare, say to each kid, hey, I want you to think about a story or a moment in time of one of the many, but what do you love about your mom? And then
Totally.
no matter how old they are, I just think, sometimes, I mean, it's just a refreshing thing to be able to hear those thoughts. And we treasure them, I think, more and more and more as we get older, and so those stories and those moments. And something I know that Warren's done for me over time that I just love is that he'll pull pictures and videos of whether if it's a birthday or if it's Mother's Day. He'll pull that and then he makes a short little video, and it doesn't have to be super fancy, but me just reliving those kind of reminds me, like, look at all that's happened,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Mhm.
I could totally see Warren doing that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a gift.
Well, thank you both for sharing this conversation with me. I want to wrap by talking, if we can, for a few minutes about Front Row Moms, what just happened. And I know this is very much in a place of like, it's being co-created and built in this moment. There's probably more questions than answers, but the unquestionable piece is that you just had a successful event. 17 women got together. Is that right? Is
16.
that about 16 women got together?
Yeah, with the speaker, 17. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So it was a successful gathering, which is the most important first step. And that's what we tell people all the time in Front Row Dads. Like, we just are fascinated by the art of gathering in, whatever it is, small groups, big groups, one-to-ones, or hundreds of people, fascinated by the art of gathering, and then what happens through authentic conversation. And I would love for either of you, both of you, to speak about what you feel just happened there and kind of how you feel about where Front Row Moms is in its kind of infancy stage right now of taking its first few steps. And I'm very excited about that. So
Megan?
either of you, both of you.
You start?
Yeah, Megan, you start, and then I'll.
Okay. All right. So, just to share from the weekend, it was a mix of what I could say is magic. So just seeing these women come together from across the US, across Canada, some of them never met before. And when they left, the power, the connection, and the emotions that came with it, it's nothing that you can put into words. Like, you almost had to be there, experience it in the moment to see that start from start to finish. And it was really neat to see. So everyone's from different backgrounds in terms of career, in terms of how they grew up. And so coming into this space, some of them have never been in a space where, they've gone to an event where they went deep, where they were able to be vulnerable, where they were able to have these conversations, right? So some might think they're going to a retreat or a conference and you're going to sit there and you're kind of going to hide out and you're going to wait and you're going to leave and you're going to say, well, I got a couple things out of it. I wrote some notes down. I mean, coming out with, 15 new friends from this event, coming out with, these possibly like inspirations that came through. So because we were able to go deep, having some of these conversations and interactive sessions, they were able to tap into something that they never knew was there, things that they've wanted to try to figure out. So there might be a challenge, whether personally or professionally, they were able to kind of move through. They were being vulnerable. They were taking their guard down. They felt incredibly comfortable to share things. So I think that was a big takeaway that we saw. We had a beautiful resort that we were at. So there was a mix of being able to do some hiking together, to be able to do some spa together, be able to go to some wineries. So we were able to do a mix of these like deep conversations, but then also have that fun relaxation. And it was just a great mix of all of it. It was really interesting to see. So some of the moms, their dads are in front row dads. So they would always be like, wow, my husband always comes home better than when he left. So we knew it was something good and we wanted to see what this is all about. So it was really neat for them to experience and say, now I know what he goes for. Now I know what my husband's into. I love that I could be a part of this. And now we have this connection that we can share. We're on the same page with it. And, we're all kind of in this together. So that was really, really neat to see as well. So that was kind of about the retreat. I'll let Angie speak on her thoughts and then also maybe where we're going with Front Row Moms.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I look at the testimonials that, or just the thoughts that have come from the women that attended. I mean, I definitely had this vision of what was going to happen. And I'm a big believer that we don't have to have the exact clear path laid out, but when we have the right people in the room and they're given an opportunity to feel safe enough to connect, that's where it happens. That's where it happens. And Zoom is great for being able to facilitate, and it's a good way to bridge connection between in person. But I know that there's an energy that only comes from being in the room, and it really came out. And I feel like, one of the women said, it's difficult to articulate the intangible benefits of being uplifted and empowered by a group of strong, smart, and brave women. It was a wholesome experience with learnings that will improve mind, body, and spirit. When I think of that, I think that being in the room with other women that get it and are going through it, but not just want to sit in it. They want to find the path forward, and they want to have to be in conversation and know, hey, this is something that's going to help me move forward in this area of my life. Because I'm a solution forward thinking person, and I want it all in life. I don't want the or, I want the and. I want to succeed in this area and in this area. I might not have it all at the same level at the same time, but to be around women that have either been there because their kids are a little older, they've been married a little longer, and I get to tap into their wisdom, that is a gift. And then to be in the room to learn from somebody who sees it differently and has a different perspective that maybe I can bring into my life. I mean, that is a gift. And we have seen, this has just happened a week ago, and already women that have left have said, I've already seen a difference since I've gotten home. It was wonderful. And we're really looking forward to the next in-person retreat, but even more so the way that we're going to be able to provide an opportunity for these women to connect virtually through events, so that when they even get an opportunity to go back in person at one of our events, those connections will be even stronger, and they're going to expand their network with like-minded women.
Now, we haven't talked about this, so I would just say that for any guy that's listening to this, and there is a percentage of our audience that are females that are listening to this as well. But for the guys, if you're out there thinking, hey, how might my wife learn more, get more information? I think there's a couple easy ways to do this. One is you can just send a message to support@frontrowdads.com and we can help. So if the easiest path is to send a message to our team, we can kind of point you in the right direction, because the landing spot might change over time. But it's also probably safe to say that if you went to frontrowmoms.com as like a holding place, generally speaking, we're going to probably be leaning on updating information there. So long term, that's probably a safe place to go. There is a Front Row Moms Instagram account, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you could
and Facebook. There's a private
follow
Facebook.
along there.
Yeah.
Yep, private Facebook group. You could connect there. So there's a handful of ways that you can go get connected and learn more. But I think if you just have questions in general and want us to point you, and you're a member of this community or you've been part of Front Row Dads for a while, then just reach out to our team, and as things evolve, we can kind of point you in the right direction. I would love to hear from either of you, and we can wrap with this. Is just why is this so important, and where might it go? We can't predict the future, obviously, but we can have vision about the future. So I'm curious as to how you would both articulate, like, why is this important for you? Why are you putting effort into this, and where in your heart might it be leading?
Yeah, I can share first. So why it's important to me, being someone who owns my own business, has kids, has a husband that have a husband I adore. I always felt like there was this pull for me, and I never really had a group that I could go to, that I could, figure out, like, how do I, build my business more and get better. But, the business people I was talking to might not have had kids. So they kind of weren't on that same wavelength, or they might not have had a husband. So finding where I can get all of that, I was looking for that. And so me and Angie, like the way we met was virtually at an exchange event, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And I was like, I know you're starting up this, Front Row Moms. How do I be a part of it? I want to help this grow. Like, that was something I was completely passionate about. And I just see myself wanting to help this community. I want to find women like me that are looking for that connection, looking for them to help them grow further, right? We surround ourselves with these incredible women. We're able to tap into their knowledge. We're able to help them grow. And me seeing, I think I told my husband, how would I know this is a successful event for last weekend? I said, when I leave, I want to hear the things people are saying, and I want to see it, and I know I'll feel it, and I will know that's success. And so just hearing from everybody, seeing the testimonials, hearing what they're sharing throughout the event, that to me fulfills and fills my bucket more than it overflows. And I love being a part of that. I love being able to create that. It gives me that fulfillment, but it also, like, I can see how I thrive on that. So that's kind of my why.
Thanks, Megan. Ange?
I feel that when I reflect my entire, I guess I would say, working career, when I look back, I feel like I was the only woman in the room. And I look back and I go, oh, what would it have been like if I had a community of women like this that I could have tapped into to go, how did you navigate that? What did you do here? Instead, what did I do? I spent thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on Tony Robbins events, which I love. So glad I did it. But, I remember attending event after event after event, looking for solutions to how do I make myself better as a human so I can be better for the humans that I love? How do I thrive in my business? And how do I, tap into some of the knowledge that's already out there? And this is, I would say, this isn't knowledge that's maybe been around forever, because, women wanting both hasn't been around forever. This, I think, is even more recent, where women are seeing the options of, and it's, whether somebody wants to they choose to stay home and raise their kids, or they want to work and have their kids. But I think that because of my own experience, I remember being in a place where I felt I had to choose. And I was scary because I didn't want to choose. I actually wanted both. And to be able to have a community of women that would be able to provide insight for me and go, oh, well, these are some options, and these are options. And even if it means, hey, you pause for a little bit and then you pick it back up. Or how do we navigate marriage after we've been married for 15 years? Because it's different than it was at year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's different when our kids are older. I remember someone saying to me at one time, oh, well, I don't know if I'll need the community because my kids are older. I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember thinking that. Little kids, little problems, big kids, bigger problems. And they're just different. And so I see this community as something can serve a lifetime. I really do. And I wish I had it. I think that we'll have stronger marriages with a community like this. That might sound naive, but I really believe that. I think with intention, a lot of good can come. I think we'll have better relationships with our kids because we'll have more tools in our toolbox to learn how do I relate with my children? How do I help bring the best out of them? I think that navigating all these things, especially now, I go, oh my gosh, now I'm going through this menopause thing. That has been in the dark for so long. And I think about this weekend and all the conversation we had about this transition for women in their life. That isn't just a women conversation. That is a how do we bring that content to our husbands and our fiancés. So we all understand what's happening, whether I'm younger and it's going to happen, because it's going to happen, or it's happening, right? To bring it out into the light. Oh, it's just a relief when you can share with other people and go, oh, that's what you're, yeah. I really could talk for 45 minutes on what I really think this community can bring, but I'm very, very excited to bring and provide a space for women that want to have something in their life that is their thing, and that could look in the form of a career or work or passion that way. And they want to raise great humans, and they want to share life with somebody else along the journey. And they don't want their health to suffer as a consequence, because they know if they don't take care of themselves, we can't take care of anyone else. So, yeah.
Well said. Yeah. Well, thank you both for the time today. Yeah, I found a lot of value in this conversation, and my hope is that the men and women listening will also appreciate the work that both of you have done in your own lives, for you, for your families, and ultimately now for the greater community. Yeah, I'm excited about next steps. I'm excited to see how this keeps forming and reforming, and but it was off to a great start, and I'm so happy that the first event is now in the books, and that is in many ways like what needed to happen. That was the seed, and so it's very exciting. Guys out there listening, I hope again this was valuable. If so, I'd love to hear how. You can always shoot me a message, John, Jon at frontroadads.com, if you want to share what was insightful about this or ask a question. You can always reach our team at support@frontroadads.com, and somebody can help you. And that's it. Angie, Megan, anything you want to say before we sign off?
Yeah, just thank you so much for this opportunity, John. So nice to meet you, and looking forward to everything happening in the future. All good things.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. Thanks for making space to have the conversation.
Yeah, this is very cool. All right. Lots of love to you two, and to all the moms out there and all the dads. It can be deep work, but it's meaningful work. Keep leaning in.